Well, considering what you're working with.
Wrong.
Okay.
How long have you been in television?
About 5 years.
Have you always wanted to be in television?
Why?
I have been on television for
5 years?
Yes.
No,
wait.
It was 10 years ago I worked with you at CNN.
No, not 10. No, not 10. That's right. Let me do that again.
Take two.
Yes.
Okay.
7 years, approximately.
Have you always wanted to be in television?
No, as a matter of fact, I never wanted to be in television. I was a print reporter my entire life for 17 years, working in newspapers and large American magazines. I got a call from CNN offering me a TV job. The first job I was offered was to cover the White House. And I thought, well, if that's the first job you're offered, you ought to be smart enough to at least give it a try.
Do you have a specific topic you like?
Well, I've always covered Congress and national politics in Washington. That was my ambition from the age of 13, was to make it to Washington to cover national politics. And so far, so good. At least no one has yet discovered I may be a fraud.
What is your favorite part about being in TV, and have you had any impact on policies?
The favorite part for me about being on television is if you know what you're talking about, you can frame a story and communicate vital information rapidly to an audience that's very hungry for it. The key thing is you have to know what you're talking about, you have to have your sources well established, and you have to be able to activate those sources at a moment's notice. That's not a universal talent. You can't do it all the time. You can't flip 100 different switches 100 different times, but more often than not, if you flip them and they work, things turn out well not only for you but your audience. Have I ever affected policy? I can't really be sure directly. Certainly the stories I've covered have conveyed a lot of information, and things have changed thereafter. Whether I was a direct participant in that process or changed things because of something I said, I don't know. If it happened, it was unintentional.
What's the best and worst thing about being in TV?
The best thing about being in television is when your audience is hungry and you tell them what they need and want to know, you've lived up to a very valuable public service. The bad side of television is the intense compression, the compression of time and space, and that brings with it a certain short-sightedness and a shortness to television that doesn't convey all of the context or all the nuance of a story. And sometimes people are left with only headlines and not a deeper truth. When I was a print reporter, I had a greater opportunity to work at some of those contextual levels and convey, if not a complete truth, a larger truth. But there's less immediacy in print, so all these things balance themselves out.
What do you do to get ready? What do you do to get ready for a story to be on television?
The thing I do to get ready to put a story on television is to assemble all the most important facts, double check them, and then try to present them in a way that is not only clear, but coherent, and also has a sort of a thematic thread to it, because one of the great difficulties in Washington is I know this language and this lingo, and I know the backstory and the front story and sometimes the side story, but my television audience doesn't know any of those three stories. And what I have to help them with is to carry them along, beginning, middle, and end. So at the end of it, I've not only conveyed a lot of information, but they've actually understood the progression of that information and come to a conclusion on their own.
If Katie wanted to get into it, what would be your advice and audience analysis? Try to use her name so it sounds like you're actually talking.
Okay. My advice to Katie is this: if you want to be a journalist, be a thinker, be a writer, be a questioner, be a skeptic, but don't be a cynic. Most importantly, don't be a cynic. And I'll let you figure out what the line between skepticism and cynicism is, but it's an important one, and I urge you to think about it. Be a writer, be a questioner, be a thinker, be a learner. All those things are part and parcel of a journalistic career, whether it's in print or radio, on the internet, or on television. It's the great dynamic force in this business. I've often told people I've never worked a day in my life because I have the great good fortune of having a job where I do all those things every day and I'm paid to do it. And I've never felt like this has been a labor, just a labor of love. And if you can find it in journalism, great. If you don't find it there, seek that passion somewhere else. But if all the things I've just described not only interest you now, but hold your interest throughout your career, you'll never have to worry about salary or job title or anything else, because all the other good things will fall into place.